What is up, everybody? Welcome to our channel. My name is Matt.
I'm Shawnee.
And today we're going to be talking about the fourth secret project, the final secret project in the year of Sanderson. So I know that some people don't like hearing the titles of the book. So we're going to say the title of the book, skip ahead like 10 seconds, okay? The name of secret project number 4 is The Sunlit Man. Welcome back if you skipped ahead. And so this is the fourth of 4 secret projects that Brandon Sanderson wrote during lockdown, just because he was bored and wanted to write more books. For the most part, that's my understanding. So yeah, Secret Project 4 is, so it's about a guy who, well, first you should know that this is Stormlight adjacent.
Yeah. It's Cosmere aware.
No, it's very heavily in the Cosmere.
Yeah.
It's very heavily in the Cosmere, but as far as Stormlight Archive goes, it's very closely related to that more than other books in the Cosmere. Mm. So that being said, one of the first things that we both agree on is you should probably have like at least one Stormlight under your belt. I think maybe 2. I've heard other people say get through Words of Radiance. I've heard other people say get caught up, which that's a lot of reading to read just to read one book. But
that's how series work, I guess.
Yeah, that's funny how series work.
But like I've only read The Way of Kings, which I read earlier this year, so thankfully it was this year, so it was kind of fresh on my mind. And I feel like that was enough for me to at least understand some of the bigger points that were being made about the Cosmere and the Stormlight in this book. So I think the first book, The Way of Kings, is sufficient.
And I'm caught up in Stormlight Archive. I've read all the books. However, that does not mean that I remember every detail about the book. So I'm sure there was some stuff in this secret project that was said that harkens back to the Stormlight Archive in some way that went over my head. I'm sure that those references exist, but we're not talking about Stormlight Archive today. We're still talking about the secret project. So in Secret Project 4, we follow a man who starts out, his name is Nomad.
He's running from some people, and he's on this world that's like really small, and so the sunlight is just like rapidly, like I think he's like every like 10 hours.
Yeah, he did the math like based on like how often he would see stars in the sky. He was able to calculate like how long a day on this world is. And so yeah, he's on the run from, so he's like a interplanetary traveler. Like he has the ability to travel between planets. And so he lands on this planet, and he kind of, his goal here is to gather enough, I think it's called skip power or something like that. BEUs.
I can't remember what that stands for.
Yeah.
His energy to do his interplanetary traveling.
For him to go to another planet.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, he needs to figure out how this planet's like energy system and magic system essentially works. He, through some circumstances, he meets up with the people of this world that are essentially like a rebellion of sorts.
Yeah, fighting against the main powers of the world. We won't spoil too much right now about like what's going on, but you know, in fantasies mostly there's like a group of people fighting against another group of people that's in power. And so whether or not this group of people is holding the majority power or this one is, he finds one group of people that's fighting the other group of people, and so he takes a side immediately because they're the ones that kind of take him in. He doesn't know anything about this world. Let's not get into too much detail, but the world is really small, and so they have to stay like behind the sun, and it like rotates like every like 10 hours. And so these entire groups of people are constantly on the move. Like you can't stop moving. So the pace of this book is just continually like so fast. There's no time to rest.
Yeah. So as long as we're staying spoiler free as spoiler free as we can, what we can say is that the pace of this book is just
no curveball, no change up, nothing but fucking gas.
If you've read Red Rising and you thought that was fast, this is just as fast, if not faster. And that pace pretty much continues throughout the entire book. There's a couple of moments where it slows down a little bit. I didn't get disinterested because in those moments, I think what was happening, even though the plot slowed down or the pace slowed down, the overarching plot was enough for me to keep reading. However, That being said, it might sound like I'm talking about this book like I liked it. I liked a lot of it.
I think like you were really into it the first like 10 to 15% because it was just go, 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 go.
No, I was into it through like the first 90%.
Was the last 10 that did you?
Yeah, the last chapter and the epilogue were kind of. I don't feel like Brandon Sanderson typically flops his endings.
But it was a flop.
This one flopped for me. And I've already watched some other people's reviews, and some people are saying, banger, Brandon Sanderson's best new book. Loved this book, 5 stars. And, I mean, we're all entitled to our own opinions, but I don't agree. I think there are many Brandon Sanderson books that are better than this, narrative-wise. Now, his voice, he still writes incredibly. He's a voice of his own.
Yeah.
And I love reading the man's writing, but this story, specifically the story of Secret Project 4, I think was, well, no, not even the story, the ending. Just the ending. If he's twisted the ending a little bit, maybe added some stuff to elongate the ending.
I think it was
I
rushed.
think it could be a 5-star for me if the ending was tweaked a little bit.
I don't think it was anywhere close to a 5-star for me. I gave it 3 stars. So did Matt. I feel like his is 3 leaning 2 and mine's 3 leaning 4. But I don't think it would have been. I don't think mine would have been more than a 4, even if I got the things out of it I wanted.
I think I bumped mine down to 2.5.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking about it today. I finished it a couple days ago, so I've had some days to stew on it, and I decided to bump it down to a 2.5. I think it's probably because of my emotions that I knocked it down, because I was just so high on this book, and then I get to the last chapter, finish that, read the epilogue, and it's just like a freaking letdown.
He was visibly upset for several hours because of the letdown. For me, something that I was missing out of this book, which is something that you don't rely heavily on, was character development. And when we hit like 50% of the way through the book, there was just, because it was so fast paced and they had to keep going like on the move, and he was discovering the stuff about this world, but he was really discovering the stuff about the world, but we weren't discovering much until towards the very end about the characters. And so I was like, why do I care? If it wasn't Stormlight adjacent, why do I care? Because I don't know enough about these characters. Is the world cool? Yes. Are we discovering more about the world? Yes. And that was keeping me in it. The fast-pacedness was keeping me in it, but there wasn't enough engagement with the characters on a more intimate level. And not like continually, I don't like a slog, but just like the smaller moments whenever it's like, you know, maybe in a cockpit or just outside on a walk or just something where there can be a little bit more of a conversational moment. There were those nuggets, which I guess we can get to in the spoiler moments, but there were those nuggets where we got some of that character interaction, but it just didn't seem like for the pacing of the book, there wasn't enough of that for me, so 3 stars.
Yeah. So that's probably going to do it for our spoiler-free section. So as far as rankings of the secret projects, I think we agree on this. It's going to be Tress of the Emerald Sea.
Yes.
Yumi and the Nightmare Painter.
Yes.
This one, Secret Project 4, Frugal Wizard.
I go back and forth on this one and the Frugal Wizard because I liked the little cute drawings in Frugal Wizard, but
I think Secret Project 4 edges out Frugal Wizard because it's tied into my favorite series.
Yeah, that's true. It draws into a bigger world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is a spoiler because he put it on his website. This will play in to the future of the Stormlight Archive.
Oh yeah, that's not
like a lot of questions that you will have reading this book will be answered in Stormlight 5. Maybe not all of them, but at least some of them will be answered. So yeah, that's going to do it for our spoiler-free section of this review. If you're going to hop away because of spoilers, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching, and we will start in spoilers in 3, 2, 1.
Spoilers.
What do we say for spoilers?
So the nuggets that I was talking about where we get some of that character development is where, is it Rebecca?
Rabeek.
I don't know how to say Rebecca. Like Rebecca, but Rebecca. I don't know how to say her name. When she killed that first man and she was like, I killed somebody, I shot a gun, or whatever the moment was, and we got a little bit of the inside of who she was, and then her talking to her sister. There were some of those moments, but I don't know. I just didn't, for it being Stormlight adjacent, maybe it's because these books are so, we have them up here, maybe it's because those books are so chunky you get so much
Yeah.
character development, but then there's so many awesome, fast-paced, punchy fighting moments. And this book was like 90% fast-paced, punchy moments, and I feel like to balance that out, we didn't have enough of who the characters were.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what we're gonna get in the future books. And I told Matt, if this was a novella, we're in the spoiler moments, but because when we found out that Nomad is Sigzil from Bridge 4, I was like, ah! I was really excited because I just read Wave Kings earlier this year. And Matt was like, oh yeah, I knew that because I read it on his website in the spoiler section. But I was like, well, it was exciting for me. But if I was just imagining this being a novella and then there being a set of novellas for each of the Bridge 4 members and kind of what they're doing either in the continuation of the series, because like I said, I've only read the first book, but I feel like it would have been better. We would have gotten more out of who Sigzil was rather than just seeing him running around this planet constantly. So I just wanted more of who he was, and I'm gonna get that more in the other books, I'm sure, but him being alone and being Hoyd's like apprentice or whatever, I wanted more of his development on that and why he broke his oath and all of that.
So on his website so he put his first 10 chapters of the book on his website. At the end of those 10 chapters, he says like you'll see in Stormlight 5 you will see what happened before this and what caused Sigzil to be here in this story.
So I have to wait an entire year until next November to find out the things that I want to find out. Come on, Brendan. What other spoiler things did you have to say?
So he is a Nomad, Sigzil, and then whatever the other name that they gave him.
Yeah, I don't remember.
He's on the run from the Night Brigade, which we don't know who the Night Brigade is right now.
Yeah.
Like all the way through, so spoilers for you, I guess, through the 4 books that are released. The Night Brigade doesn't exist in the published Stormlight archive, as far as I know.
We hadn't talked about that. I was assuming that it did, and that I was just like, oh, I don't know who that is.
I don't know who the Night Brigade is.
Oh, okay.
And then the people in the epilogue, I don't know who they are either. Well, they are the people in the Night Brigade, actually. So I don't know who the Night Brigade is, but somehow Sigzil has got a target on his back from them, and so that's why he is jumping from planet to planet, just trying to run away from them.
Yeah.
And then I think on this planet, if you stay in the sun too long, you die.
Yeah, basically burn up because you're so close to the sun.
You burn up. Your heart becomes is it a crimson heart? Is that what it's called?
I think so, like a
Something
power
like that.
source.
And so the Cinder King is trying to create what are called Chard, which are basically his droids, for lack of a better term. Like he controls them, and they have no choice but to do what he says. And so the Cinder King will lock people up on like rocks and stuff, on boulders, leave them out through sunrise, and then come back on the next revolution to
get their hearts.
Or to get the charred people that are left. Nomad helps the people that are running from the Cinder King at the same time that he's running away from the Night Brigade. And I think because he has to be on the run, he has no choice, especially on this world. I think that's a great, I guess, justification for the amount of movement. The speed at which the pace, or what am I saying?
The pacing of the book.
Yeah, that's plenty of justification for me for the pace, because it is a lot. It does not ease up very much.
No.
But when it does, and he's he's like running a bunch of tests, and I told Shani I called it the artificer's montage.
Yeah, the montage scene.
I can just picture him like with his goggles on his forehead and like writing stuff down on a notebook and then like screwing stuff in, and I don't know. I enjoyed that part of it.
At one
just
point,
like peeling back layers and discovering this little thing, and because of that, this must be true, and so let me try this and see what happens. And then eventually he figures out how everything works. And because of his prior knowledge in physics and whatnot, and what he's discovered on the planet, he's able to solve the big problem.
At one point, he used his physics background, his science background, and his math and everything like that to determine the diameter of the world. And I just was like, sure, because I can't math the math, so... was like, wow, okay, okay.
So the part of the ending that I really didn't like
yeah.
is the Cinder King has Nomad in a chokehold. Literally hands around his throat. All Nomad does to get out of it is just grab him and then take his power because he grabbed him, and that's how he won. Yeah. And I just...
Felt cheap.
It felt way too cheap. I thought the ending in Tress was cheap.
And then when he was just like gone, I was like, oh, I have your power,
and then,
gone off the world.
And then he just jets. There's no goodbyes, there's no...
And he turned the page and it's epilogue.
There's no leaving words and like no words of wisdom for the people that he's abandoning.
No.
Which, I mean, he needs to run because the Night Brigade's on his butt.
Yeah. So he finished the book. I had just come home from work and he's like, I have like 1% left. And he finished the book and he like groaned and I was like, the ending. And he's like, yes! And I was like, I knew you weren't gonna like it because I had finished it during my lunch break earlier that day and he was just like, what? He was just like, no, like after all of that, like good, like the last of the book just like threw it like in the mud.
Yeah, I was so upset. I was so distraught. Just like, I didn't know what to do with my life. I've now picked up another book, but I was so reluctant to do so because I was like, I don't like reading. I'm not a reader anymore because this book has ruined me.
He was like, do I even like Brandon Sanderson? I was like, yes, you like Brandon Sanderson.
I was just being dramatic, okay?
I really liked Ox and I wanted more of that relationship.
Oh,
and I think that's something I was missing. And I told Matt, I had this awareness of Brandon Sanderson's writing. I told Matt, I made up a terminology. I said, Brandon Sanderson is a, what did I call it? Companion fantasy novelist. And he's like, I don't know what that means. I was like, I just made it up. But he writes main characters that have companions with them. And so this novel had that as well, with the main character having Ox, who is like the
he's a spren, yeah.
That is like in his like mind and can turn into like weapons or whatever and anything else.
I think it was an honor spren. I'm excited to figure out what Ox is and like knowing more about their relationship because I really like Kaladin and Syl and their relationship.
Yeah, that's what it made me think of. Well, I only read one book, but that's what it made me think of.
And so I'm the fact that we could have another relationship like that, and knowing Ox's like personality, and he's pretty wisecracky.
Yeah.
And Sigil is kind of like, he doesn't play any games. He's like very just
to the point, matter of fact, science.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a great dynamic. So I want more of those two, but I don't want to reread this book.
So in the other Brandon Sanderson books that I've read that made me realize this is that Tress had the rat. What's his name?
I don't remember what the rat's name.
Tress had the rat.
But it was actually...
I can't remember the names. Anyways, Tress had the rat, and then in Yumi and the Night Painter, they had each other to balance each other out. And then Kaladin has Syl. And then in Mistborn, names are leaving me. Vin has Ansur so far in the first two of the books that I've read. And so, in the books that I've read so far, Brandon Sanderson, he has the main character that has somebody on and off with them, a companion of sorts, that balances them out, that points them either in the right direction or the wrong direction based upon, their companion opinion. That's funny to say.
Is it like a Frodo Samwise
situation? And so he does that really well, and I think that is why Frugal Wizards flopped.
Because he was solo.
Yes, he was solo. He found friends and other people, but he didn't have like a one main companion that he was like ongoing with.
But also, so in Frugal Wizard, he wakes up in a world and he's unfamiliar with, and he has to uncover things.
Yeah.
It's a very similar situation here, but this one worked so much better than Frugal Wizard did.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what it was, but
I think that's what it was. The solo running.
Well, no. I think the biggest difference is the main character in Frugal Wizard doesn't know anything, and he has to uncover it himself. In The Sunlit Man, Nomad knows these things, or specifically about his past.
Sure, yes, he knows who he is.
He knows who he is, he knows his past. The dude in Frugal Wizard does not. He doesn't know anything. And so, I don't know. That's just it's a thought I had about, like, kind of a parallel.
Mm-hmm. We also liked the use of the word cosmologically, and I haven't said that out loud, so did I say it right?
I think so.
Cosmologically.
Cosmologically.
That was fun to read.
Yes, it was very fun. I like stopped and giggled, and I almost took a picture of it and sent it to you. Oh no, I texted you.
You did?
Yeah. All right, so the year of Sanderson is over, and now we don't have anything to look forward to.
I have the rest of the Stormlight to look forward to because I haven't read it yet.
So yeah, now we can get back to our regularly scheduled TBR programming.
Yeah.
And not be interrupted once a quarter. But yeah, this year has been so much fun of like just the anticipation of getting a new book every 3 months. And then getting excited to be a part of like being some of the first people to read it.
Yeah.
I had fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna
even
miss
though
it.
like only one of the books was like a 5-star read for me.
It was still a fun experience.
It was still fun.
Yeah. We hope that y'all had fun too.
And so if you have watched this entire video, thank you so much for watching. If you've read Sunlit Man, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Or if you've read any of the Secret Projects, what are your thoughts on the year of Sanderson?
Yeah.
Are you sad that it's over too? Because I'm a little sad because I kind of want him to. I want to give him a chance to redeem himself, but
He will.
I'll look forward to Stormlight 5 and let him do that then.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.